Hello. So I've been asked, and I think it's a really good idea, to think about what people could do if they're spending longer periods sitting down to study, to work, to be entertained. So we know that it's really common that we have more of a sedentary lifestyle these days, just because of the way work is organised and the way we have chairs and all those sort of things. So just sort of do a general kind of discussion talk, and some things will help you work with that. So these are kind of yoga snacks, I tend to call them. Anything you can do really briefly, really simply, and you can do them either regularly in short little bursts, or you could take a longer period and kind of put them together. So that gives you kind of different options. So the first thing I would say is it's just kind of so common before lockdown and the changes we've been having, that we've been sitting a lot. We've been sitting, just come to the side, often means sitting in this position with a collapsed back, flexed. So we're kind of flexing at the front of the body, we're closing the shoulders in, we're rounding the back, and there's that element to it. There's the collapse going on with all that entails. So what that does entail, to some extent, is an issue with the spine, because of the continued flexing forward, and what just to the neck. Also, what's connected with sitting down, if we're working or we're concentrating, then what's probably also happening is we're tensing. We might be typing away, we might be tensing the fingers, tensing the wrists, or whatever, whatever movements we need to do to kind of get our work done on the laptop or whatever it is. It could be books, of course, but often it is the device of some kind, or you're on your phone, and even that can be quite a lot of looking down. So this kind of movement also, as you can probably see, hopefully from this side, is it closes the chest down. So that closure of the chest means breathing is difficult. So the tension is coming in the fingers and the hands, it's coming in the neck. If we're working hard and trying to work something out, or we tense or we're anxious about something we're doing, then we'll clench the jaw, or the face will become tense, we'll be kind of focused down with the eyes. So all those things put together are not ideal for very long periods. Yeah, sure, it's fine. It's good to study, it's good to concentrate, and we don't want to be in a rigid position where we're kind of sitting up, forcibly sitting up straight, because that's just as bad, because you're forced and you're holding. So you need a little bit of movement as frequently as you can, really. So just kind of general things. What can I do? What can I just remind myself to do? Is maybe some sort of movement every 20 to 30 minutes, if kind of the meeting allows, or the span of doing your piece of work allows. So sometimes you need to go a little bit longer, but broadly speaking, if you can look at 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or the most 40 minutes before you do something can be so subtle, you can still be in a meeting and do some movement. Okay, so you might want to go low. You're getting up, you're moving, so you can stretch, and you can just kind of do a little bit of a jiggle on route. The fact you're walking, you might get upstairs or whatever, it's a little bit of movement. Get yourself a drink, it's a bit of movement. Looking outside is really quite helpful, because we just focus down, so the eyes are really focused, and then when we look up and we look out, and at the moment we see the sun and we see the colour, that kind of does something completely different. We brightens as we smile, we relax, we breathe. We're standing, so we're in a different position. So that if you've got access to a garden, then maybe your thinking period, rather than sitting, your thinking period, planning, reviewing, if you're doing a little bit of that in your head, you could walk down the garden instead. You could do some of the work standing. So I sometimes have a laptop up here, and I do a little bit of work in a standing position. So there's different kind of options. And I'm assuming people sitting in the chair. Some people might be lying on the bed, some people might be lying on the floor, some people might be sitting on the floor. And some people that works. The younger you are, the easier that tends to be, because often when we're young, we kind of naturally just move around a little bit more and adapt. when we get a little bit older, we tend not to do it quite so much. So there's things you can just do in your day, and just being really aware that that is your break. It's your break from your head, unless you're doing the walking, thinking business. And it's back into the breath, back into the body, back into movement. And any movement that takes you away from where you were is good in itself. And after we know what we need to do, we need to loosen the shoulders, we need to just do a little subtle twist or whatever. Okay, so there's things you can do just during your day, during the time you're sitting, to break that up. So if you want to do something like you're sitting still, or sitting rather than still, particularly if you're in a meeting or something, then I know people might think it's slightly bizarre, but you can always these days, if you're in an online meeting, you just switch the video for a minute or two, and you can move from side to side. So join me if you're kind of interested. So you just move on your bottom, moving on your bottom from one cheek to the other cheek, one butt to the other butt, from one sitting bone to the other sitting bone. So we're relaxing a little bit in the hips and the waist, in the pelvis, but it's mainly the hips. And we're also trying to find that sense of the bones on the bottom. You might even take a chance and have a feel of where the bony bit is in your bottom, and just make sure that it's broadly going down towards the into the chair that you'll be sitting on. So all this ideally is done on some form of fairly supported hardback chair, ideally, rather than doing this in the sofa ain't going to work. You need something that's going to give you a little bit of feedback for your posture. Okay, so if you're slouched, you might notice that your sitting bones slip underneath. Yeah, so you can slouch now, bring the chin down a little bit, and you can't usually feel any bony bit. It's all the butt, skin and muscle. And then if you start to sit up and press down, and you rock from side to side, and then you realise you're sitting odd, it can sometimes make the shoulders feel tight if you're not careful, but just sitting, moving from side to side. If you've got space, you can go in circles. Or if you've got space, just means you wriggle a bit further forward. And as you do that, you might breathe a little bit as well. You might breathe out through the lips. So if you purse the lips and you blow really slowly, that calms things down a bit. So it might be you need to calm down, it might be you need to wake up. So if you need to wake up, then the movement itself, the rhythm, hopefully will help. Moving in the opposite direction in circles on your bottom again, so you can feel the sitting bones underneath, maybe, depending on the chair. Your familiarity with kind of sensing, body sensing, but you can imagine that even if you can't feel it. Okay, and if it's back issues, lower back issues, then we're wanting to kind of lengthen the lower back. So just bringing the knees up a little bit. So you might need to do at a table, you're going to have to just move from side to side to get your legs free, but it doesn't take much. And again, that's a movement in itself. Okay, and the legs down. So again, it's also about space. So I might need to just move back a bit to tack myself. Okay, so you can do things that start to bring a little bit more support through the breath and movement. So you can sweep the arms up and breathe in. That's lengthening. So this sense you're pressing down with your sitting bones with your bottom, but you're reaching up a little bit with your arms, and you kind of have a sense of extension through the crown of your head. And then out breath, you bring the arms back down. So in breath, sweep the arms up. Out breath, take the arms down. So you might only need to do that half a dozen times. You already might feel better. Okay, arms up with the in breath and down with the out breath. You can add a little bit, so like if I need to wake up a little bit more with that, then you can press through the feet. So I've got my feet on the ground where you can't see them, believe me, I've got feet. Press down through the feet, gets the legs engaged. It again helps you get support from the lower back, as long as the lower back's feeling safe, and then extend it up with the feet pressing down. So you can either maintain the feet pressing down, or you can press down with the feet as you take the arms up, and then relax the feet as you bring the arms down with the out breath. So there's little additions that you can add in. Okay, so the issue with the back again means it's quite helpful to be able to not just have it this flex collapse position. So we're going to move broadly from that position, so you can have your hands on your lap, And you're rounding your back and you bring your chin in. So you feel like the whole back's rounded. And again, you won't feel your sitting bones here. And from here, pushing down through your sitting bones, bringing your chest forward and your shoulders slightly back, looking up. And then bringing the chin in, rounding the back, bring the shoulders forward. So you're kind of going beyond the collapse you would normally have to rounding. And then from the rounding, you're coming forward to take the spine in the opposite direction. So it's a little bit. So if that's too strong on the lower back, the lower back's tense, then you don't go as far. You do the rounding, and that hopefully will feel good. And then you just come so you can feel the sitting bones, so you're broadly straight, and then you might take the shoulders slightly back. But it's about working into these things. So you tend to breathe in when you bring the chest forward and you start to look up. The shoulders might tip back slightly. Now breath, and you bring the chin in. And let the whole back round. Just exaggerating that collapse. And then you're coming out of that collapse and the shoulders go back and the head might look up. So you don't need to look up if the head's not comfortable. And then you can just see how you feel after each one, if it helps or doesn't help. Yeah, and if you're unsure, you can always go back to rocking from side to side. Some people like that afterwards, so just a little bit of a break. Okay, so twisting is really good for the spine and hopefully the shoulders a little bit as well. So taking one hand to your opposite shoulder. So whichever hand you shoulder on, yeah, the other shoulder you have is on, but that sounded a bit bizarre. Then you're going to look behind that shoulder and twist in that direction. So looking at your hand initially, looking at your shoulder, then take your shoulder back and take your gaze behind you. Not overstraining at all, come back into neutral. Okay, so we just kind of did that and see what was happening. So if you get used to this thing about pressing down with your feet a little bit, pressing into your sitting bones and sense of lengthening through the spine. And then you take the circuit round. That's a little bit functionally safer for the back. So you maintain that length through your spine. So you might do it half a dozen times on one side, and then you relax in the center, relax the shoulders, you go on the other side, and just look back over your shoulder with the hand up, and then go back slightly, and then come forward, see how that was, and then you press the feet down slightly, get a sense of sitting bones, sense of extension through the spine, and then on the out breath, look behind you. It could be in breath to come back, and an out breath to look over, etc. Yeah, so about 6 times. So these could be your mini breaks. You weren't going to get off the chair. And back into neutral. Again, maybe just go from side to side. With any tension formed in your lower back. Okay, so let the arms just come to your side and your palms facing forward. And we'll just do a little bit more with the shoulders for a moment. So the palms are facing out, and then the back of the hands come towards the sides of the chair or the sides of the thigh, and then you open out. So there's a little, again, it needs to be done within your limits. And we're moving from the shoulder and opening the chest in when we have the palms forward. We're bringing the shoulders forward, exaggeration version of what we would have been doing before, and the backs of the hands come with us. It's like an opening and a closing. Okay, and then relax. Sometimes just a shaking of the arm and the shoulders is enough. So just have a go at how that feels. That feels safe for you to do. Both arms. So shaking is quite good. It's awakening and it kind of goes through the whole of the body as well. Okay, so we can take the shoulders up, but rather than dropping them suddenly, bringing them down with control and letting them go. So in breath, taking the shoulders slightly higher towards the ears than they would normally live, and then let them travel down slowly, 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 as much smoothness and control, and then let them go. Taking the shoulders up, not too harsh, but higher than they would be when you're in a tense position, and you just find a way of bringing them softly, smoothly, no jumps or movements, and then you just let them go. And you breathe. So the breath in itself is useful. So just one thing about the breath that can maybe be quite helpful. So as well as kind of noticing the breath, maybe taking account of 10 natural breaths, what you can do is you can breathe in, ideally through the nose, but up to you. If you've got blocked nose or whatever, it's not possible. Breathing in through the nose and then out breath through the pursed lips. In breath through the nose. A sense of, again, this extending through the spine slightly. Out breath. And letting everything soften that needs to soften. Yeah, so the shoulders, the back, the jaw, etc. Okay, so we'll do one thing with the jaw. And so if you just take your fingers, I'll do two things with the jaw. Just take your fingers to your chin and allow your mouth, your lower jaw to release down. And take it back up. And you try and do that in the most relaxed way you can. How could you make it effortless? Okay. And then taking a break from that movement, we'll just do side to side. So just take it again, finger and thumb around the chin, and take the jaw side to side, soft as you can. So your lips are separated, your jaw is separated. And then release the hand. Take a swallow, that'll help. Potentially the back of the throat release. And screw up the eyes slightly, or a lot. And then open them. Screw up the eyes. And then open. Screw up the eyes. And then open. The eye socket out of space feel a little bit softer. Okay, so sometimes we have to create a little bit more tension to come out to create more ease. Yeah, there's that kind of process going on. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few things that you could do lying on your back. So saying you did any of these things during your day, so you could have a list of things once you've got into the things you like, the things you know are helpful. So if you do something, you see it helps, and then in your sort of 20-minute break, you know, your 20-minute, 30-minute or 40-minute breaks, then you just do one of the movements, or two of the movements, or three of the movements, or whatever, or a little bit of each movement, just to kind of arrive back and soften a little bit. Okay, so what might be helpful is what you do before and what you do after. So the before actually might be better for standing. The after might be better for 2 minutes. It's got two ready here already. So standing, before you sit down, just wake yourself up a little bit. Can be broadly the movements we were doing sitting. Yeah, so everything we did sitting, you can do standing. So you might just take the arms up, but you might come onto your toes, so it takes a little bit more effort, and you might bend your knees, you come down, take your arms up. So I'm going on to the balls of my feet actually, so if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. So you get a little bit of length, a bit of opening. You can do loose twists. So again, you could do this while you're waiting for the tea, the kettle to boil, your tea or your coffee, or it's a bit more cold during this weather, but tea usually comes into the day at some point, so just maybe coffee for some people. Okay, so just find an easy way for the shoulders and the body to waken up and to twist a little bit. And again, you might be just doing a little bit of making sure the lower back is getting lengthening before you can sit down. And hands on your legs and round in the back, bringing the chin in and extending. Out breath. In breath, bringing the chest through and looking forward. Okay, millions of more other things you could do, but I must kind of keep it a bit tight. I know I'm like, I kind of go into too much detail sometimes. Actually, I just need to adjust this. Okay, so hopefully I'm not confusing with too many things. Apologies if I am. Hopefully, joy about having a recording is you can just go back and dissect a little bit. So you might be doing something standing, either between when you get up, you might do standing before you start, so you actually start with your body feeling active and supportive. At the end, you might just want to relax. So it might be the end of the day, it might be the end of your working day, it may be you're just exhausted because you've had a difficult session, time, work, period, study period or whatever, or family period. So coming down onto your back with your knees bent and your feet hip distance apart. Now, this position is called constructive rest. So that tells you a lot. So because, you know, when you're sitting down, you can't release your shoulders that easily. There's an opportunity here to release the shoulders down. There's an opportunity to release the hips. So we're just going to do a few movements as well here. So you could just lie here for a few moments and follow the breath. If you're that kind of person, I find that easy to do. That is wonderful. I do that. You could do what what is called arch and flatten, where you just slightly tip forward on your pelvis and slightly tip back on your pelvis, like a rolling pin effect here, which means that you're slightly arching your lower back and slightly, well, quite a lot, softening the back, so lengthening the back so the back's touching the floor. So a little bit of an arch, and then there's a flatten, and your arms could be just gently by your sides, and you just find a position that feels that, you know, the level of movement, the range of movement that feels okay for you. So don't overarch. You're tending to get most value out of slightly flattening. For most people, not for everybody. So you can in-breath when you arch, and you can out-breath as you take the back down. So that's huge. For me, that's just lovely. But it's taken me time to find a smooth way of doing that. So some of you will find it really easy. And you can do a little bit with your arms, so you can extend your arms up so the shoulders are off the floor, and then you can allow one shoulder to come down and reach up. Same 3 times, allow the shoulder to come down and reach up slightly, allow the shoulder to come back into its socket and reach up. Other side, extend it up, and then let it reach, allow it to just settle back down. Slight reach, and then there's a relaxing, slight reach, and then there's a relaxing. Take your arms again by your side, let the shoulders settle, and then, so between these you are ideally taking a break. I'm going through quickly. So I'm bringing my heels slightly closer into my bottom. I'm creating a bit of an arch. There'll be an arch anyway naturally in my back. I'm flattening my back and bringing my bottom off the floor, my lower back off the floor. I'm coming kind of onto the base of my rib cage here, and I'm letting the weight go through my shoulders and my rib cage. I'm letting relaxing my inner thighs, my bottom, my flexors, belly for a moment, and then I'm taking everything back down, creating the arch and creating the flat back, taking my bottom, lower back off the floor, and just letting everything relax down, and then coming all the way down. If it feels okay for the arms, you can take the arms overhead and keep the elbows bent. This is stronger for people. Pressing down through the feet, take the butt off the floor, and again, just rest somewhere around the base of the rib cage. You could take your knees slightly from side to side. Again, if that's too strong for the shoulders, then you just leave that one out, or you do it with one arm. Try it out, and do the other And then gently get yourself back down, get the arms back down to your side. And relax everything. Could bring one knee into your chest and just extend the other leg away for a moment with the toes pointing towards the ceiling. And just lengthen into the heel for a moment to get some length. And pull the knee, or have the knee snuggling into the chest. The hands on the shin if that's comfortable. If it's not comfortable, then take your hands behind your thigh. And then both feet to the floor, knees bent, and then just swap sides. And extend through the heel, toes towards the ceiling, and a little bit of a pull. Snuggling in with that leg if it'll do that for you. And release. And both feet again to the floor, knees bent. Taking the feet wide now. And having the arms either 45 degrees or 90 degrees coming out to the shoulder level. And so feet are wide now, as wide as the mat, or slightly wider than your shoulders. You just let your knees drift over. And see how that feels. Bring your knees back up and drift them over to the other side. So you're keeping the knees separate is my suggestion, rather than bringing the knees together. It's a stronger movement, but you get more of a feeling, more of a release down the side body, which might be part of the issue. If you start feeling discomfort in your lower back, then don't take the legs over as far, or try and see what it's like having the knees closer together. So I just love this. It's kind of my luxury movement. Do it almost every day. Okay, and back up into neutral. Bring your knees into your chest, both knees this time, hands onto shins on back of the thigh. You can move the knees slightly back and forth. You can move them slightly side to side. You can even, if it's comfortable, move them so you get the lower back in a circle one way, and the lower back massage in a circle in the other way. If you choose to, you can then just relax down with the legs extended for a little while. So you can just feel the whole body, see how it feels and rest. And maybe just take 10 or 20 breaths, soft breaths, and just see how the whole body feels at rest. The idea is you get away from the mind at this time. If you've done lots of work, you get into the feeling in the body, feeling of the breath, and the feeling of the movement. The body feeling awake or relaxed. And obviously when you've taken the time, taken the breath to come out of it, feet are back on the floor, knees are bent, knees to chest, and you just roll up to one side. You have to take care of the back's a bit of an issue for you, and you find your way back up into the rest of your day, or going to bed, or having a shower, or whatever you need to do, cooking, blah, 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 blah. So at the moment the weather's so fantastic, it's unbelievably fantastic. So getting out isn't quite such a chore for most people, whether it's walking, whether it's taking the dog, whether it's gardening, whether it's running, whether it's getting on a bike, whether it's now going to meet a friend soon, or friends soon, should I say. So doing what you can do to find a yoga snack or a series of snacks to support the shoulders, support the back, and still be able to carry on working, studying really well, being a bit more alert with it. So study well, work well, rest well, have fun, and enjoy the sunshine. Stay safe, and keep for snacking. Thank you.